nice car. What's the retail on one of those?
More than you can afford, pal. Ferrari.
Smoke 'em. Folks, I am inside a 1986 Ferrari 328 GTS, and the S stands for Spider. It has a targa removable top. There were also GTB models available. The B stands for Berlinetta, which had a fixed roof. Now, this car was produced from 1985 through 1989, model years 1986 through 89. This particular car was built in December of 1985 as a 1986 model. Now, if anybody has grown up in the 80s, or even if you haven't, I am sure you have heard of a TV show called Magnum PI. In that show, Tom Magnum was driving a Ferrari 308. Now, the 328 is a continuation of a Ferrari 328 that was made famous by Tom Magnum. And this is a slightly updated version of the 308. Now, they're riding on the same chassis. So, and they have similar engines, but a lot of people mistaken the 328 for the 308. There's some stylistic differences between the two cars. Mainly, the exterior appearance and some of the interior features have been upgraded. The 308 had those, in my opinion, ugly plastic rubber bumpers that have been changed in the 328 and have been painted body color. They've been extended a little bit, and I think the 328 is a much better looking car. Folks, I have a confession to make. I have been driving this car for a couple days, and I was filming with it all day yesterday. And it was raining all day, and I was driving the car in the rain, which I know is blasphemy. The rule of thumb is that Italian exotics and supercars melt in the rain, but it didn't. It's still here. And after shooting all day, I came home and I reviewed the footage, and I had nothing to say. And the reason I had nothing to say is because I was so impressed by this car. I was having so much fun driving it that I forgot to say anything on camera. And let me tell you something. I have driven many Ferraris before. This is not the first Ferrari I'm driving. I've driven many Testarossas, which I love. I have driven a 355. I have driven a 550 Maranello, the 575M, which stands for Modificata. This is by far one of my favorite Ferraris ever. Now, this car has a 3.2 liter V8 engine. Quattro valvole. In Italian means simply 4 valves. I just love how Italians take an ordinary word and they make it sound fancy, exotic, extraordinary. They did the same thing with the Maserati, right? They called it Maserati Quattroporte. Sounds so fancy, Quattroporte, mamma mia. But in Italian, Quattroporte simply means 4 doors. I mean, try to do this in the United States. Try to take a Chevy and say, oh, it's a Chevy 4-door. That'll go well. But it's a relatively simple engine. The 328s, the 308s, and 328s are known to be one of the most reliable Ferraris out there. They do not require a complete engine out for any type of service. These engines are known to do a lot of miles, and working on these cars is relatively easy. The reason it's called the 328 is because it's a 3.2 liter 8-cylinder. This is how it was back in the day. This is how simple it was. It's not the naming schemes that we have today. The Ferrari 308 was 308 because it was 3-liter 8-cylinder. Today, you know, we don't have that. It's very, very complicated with all the naming and the numbering and lettering. It's a whole mess and confusion. And here's another confession, folks. I used to hate on the 328s all the time. And the reason I used to hate on the 328s is because I personally think that it's not the best looking Ferrari out there. Now, this is the first time I had the opportunity to drive one, and after driving it and after seeing it in person, actually my opinion has significantly changed, because it looks a lot better in person than it does in pictures and in videos. And it drives absolutely amazingly. I mean, this is a true driver's car. And the reason it performs and handles so well is because it's a small car, and it's a very rigid chassis, and it feels like you're driving a go-kart. Now, the engine is pushing only 270 horsepower and about 230, 235 pound-feet of torque. By today's standards, I mean, these numbers are laughable. You can go and buy a V6 Mustang or a 4-cylinder Mustang that makes more than 300 horsepower. But the numbers mean nothing when it comes to 328 Ferrari. They really don't, because this car is so light, it is so nimble, it is so stiff that driving it is absolutely amazing. It has a 5-speed manual transmission, you know, the classic gated shifter, which, you know, the way that God intended it, the way Ferraris should come, but they don't come like this anymore. And the beautiful thing about this car is that it doesn't have infotainment systems, it doesn't have screens, it doesn't have any stupid tire pressure warning lights. It's just you and the car. It has some analog gauges, and this car feels so raw. It feels so connected to the road, and you feel like a professional race car driver being behind the wheel of one of those. It is absolutely amazing. And like I said, I spent all day yesterday driving it, and it you know, I was enjoying it so much that I forgot to talk to the camera. I forgot to say anything about it. I absolutely love this transmission, this shifter. It is from the gods. And if you watch my videos, I know I drive a Chevy SS with a manual 6-speed transmission. That's my daily driver. And when it comes to manual transmissions, I am a very picky person. But this is by far one of the best manual transmissions that I have driven in many years. The gear shifts are easy. The clutch operation is light and it's precise. You know exactly where the grab point is. It is absolutely amazing. It's one of the best shifting cars that I have ever driven. Now, the thing about Italian exotics and sports cars, if you ever sat inside of a 70s, 80s, 90s, even 2000s Lamborghini, Ferrari, even some of the German cars from the 80s, the pedals are shifted to the right. So when you're not actually sitting straight, your legs are shifted to the right because the wheel well is right here, and then there's not enough room. So in the beginning, if you've never experienced an Italian exotic, it's a little awkward position. But after you drive this car for 15-20 minutes, you get used to this right away. It's not the most ideal position, but it's not difficult. I am surprised how easy this car is to drive. And I have driven some 80s exotics and some supercars before, and this is by far one of the easiest cars to drive. The other thing is that the visibility is great. This is not the typical supercar visibility that you would expect. You can see everything out the front, you can see everything out the back. The blind spots are not that bad. You can see out the side. It's really, really surprising, because now this is like a comparison video to a Testarossa, but you know, I've driven a Testarossa before, and that's a much bigger car with a 12-cylinder engine. So the visibility in that car is not as good. This is a completely different story. It's a much smaller car, and it's so tossable. It feels so great to drive this car around. Here's the other thing, folks. I really like the gauge cluster in this car. Everything is visible. It's easy to see. The steering wheel is not blocking your view. All the gauges are right here for you to see. Everything's at your fingertips. All the controls in the center stack for the AC. Everything is right there. You don't have to reach for anything, which makes it for a very, very, you know, driver-oriented car. Folks, here are some final thoughts about this car. I personally think that every car enthusiast out there should drive a 328, or at least a Ferrari. This should be a bucket list for any car guy out there. If you don't know how to drive a stick shift, go learn how to drive a stick shift so you can drive a proper manual transmission Ferrari from the 80s or the 90s. Once you do that, this is an experience that you will never forget, because you will understand how dull and mundane everyday cars are. Driving this car is like a religious experience. It really is, and there's really nothing that can compare to this. You have to experience this in person to be able to understand how amazing this car really is. Folks, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, share, and thank you for watching. Bye.